More on the profile of this reclusive shooter and why he did it. Police say they are looking closely at the entire life of 64-year-old Stephen Paddock. He has been described as just a normal guy, a successful real estate investor and gambler, a multimillionaire, a wealthy retiree. He didn't fit the mass shooter profile. Let's take this to psychiatrist and author Dr. Keith Ablow. Doctor, what do you think of the news that he was moaning and groaning in his bed, according to his girlfriend?
Well, Liz, I think that this information continues to contribute to the potential theory that really what motivated Stephen Paddock may have been an underlying degree of something on the autistic spectrum, Asperger's syndrome, wherein, you know, he's suffering, but suffering silently. He doesn't know how to share his incredible growing rage, his sense of desperation. He's a tremendously organized fellow. We get that from a number of sources. He's having his girlfriend stand away from him sometimes when he uses the video poker machines. It's video poker. It isn't around a table where somebody bluffing is often something you intuit. He's not a man necessarily, it doesn't seem like it, who's got an emotional connection with folks. It's all about rigidity, obsessiveness. If he has a Facebook account, which I've heard there's one, it's very limited. There's not much happening in his social world because he's so limited. That's the kind of crucible in which somebody can become more and more and more enraged. He even wears gloves, supposedly, when he's driving. Now, what's remarkable is that people would say, yeah, he seemed like a normal guy. What's normal about somebody who doesn't greet his neighbors when they say hello to him and wave nothing back often, wearing gloves to drive, moaning in bed, who moves close to a city in close to Las Vegas in order to play video poker, and his brother's like, well, he seemed normal to me. He did?
Yeah.
Not at all.
You know, Doctor, did other mass shooters exhibit the similar behaviors of Asperger's syndrome, as you point out?
Absolutely. You know, you just go to Aurora, Colorado. You go to Sandy Hook. You see folks with the same kind of oddities, even going back to Dylan Klebold and others, these folks who seem socially ill at ease, quite obsessive, perhaps on the spectrum. It's interesting, Liz, and I'm not saying this is a fait accompli. I'm raising the question. You know, we've seen Asperger's disorder and autism spectrum disorders, they keep changing the names, ratchet up, right? People are like, why? Why do these things keep going up? What do we also see going up? Mass shootings going up. Now, I'm not saying the two things are one, but really shouldn't we look at it and wonder whether internally some tiny minority of folks on the spectrum become increasingly frustrated and enraged. Why can't I participate?
Yeah.
Why can't I feel alive at a concert?
Yeah.
Right?
You know, the facts,
and then terrible things can happen.
The facts we know so far, Doctor, seem to line up behind and support what you're saying. He was so good at gambling. He made $5 million in 1 year. He was using algorithms to do it. I mean, the casinos were so upset with him, they stopped comping him because they realized they were losing money on this guy. He had, you know, multiple homes. He was scouting other cities like Boston and Chicago. There was a detail, an obsessive detail to planning on this, right? Exactly.
And we're the only ones talking about this, which is interesting,
yeah.
because this theory ought to be developed beyond us. The people who weren't stopping the interactions with him, you said the Vegas casinos were like, wait a sec, we're losing. The people who were profiting are the same people who are saying, well, he was basically normal. His brother says, well, he enriched my family. His girlfriend was getting deposits made to her account, and probably her lifestyle was quite different after she met this fellow. One of his wives, apparently, I heard, was married to another man simultaneously. But, you know, people kept perhaps accessing Stephen Paddock and not getting him help because he's good at making money. It's like as if Rain Man were constantly paying people out. You know, you wouldn't be getting him help, but he needed help desperately. And I think that there are probably a vast minority of the folks on the autistic spectrum who may be potentially violent. I know it's politically incorrect. Again, almost everybody with those disorders is a lovely and peaceful person. But a minority perhaps we should be looking at in a different way.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying, not politically correct, but you want to prevent future attacks, right? We can see the red flags, right?
You got to, because listen, I don't think it's common, frankly. I think people are so worried about asking these questions that it's not typical, even as these young people on the spectrum emerge into adulthood, and they're not dating, and they're not going to get married, and they're not going to have kids, and they're not being invited to social events. It's not typically asked of them, by the way, even by experts in the field. I find, because I treat some of these folks, I find many experts aren't asking them, are you getting very, very enraged? Are you, have you, God forbid, have you thought of ever lashing out? I think we better start asking those questions, and I don't mean, again, I feel like I have to say it so many times, I'm not impugning
no, but
the
you're picking up on a pattern.
Anybody.
No, but you're picking up on a pattern that you have seen in other mass shootings of the individuals behind it. Yeah. Okay.
It's almost, people should have their antennae up now, because you'll see most of these mass shootings, that's what's happening.
Dr. Keith Ablow, we love having you on. Come back soon.
Thanks, Liz.